I'm Alan Manuel. I'm responsible for products and marketing at Protera. Joining me is Patrick Osterhaus, who's our CTO, who's going to walk us through more technical aspects of the presentation, and Jamie Sina-Hilly, who runs our marketing, who's responsible for us being together. We're going to take about 25 minutes today to go through. If we go longer, if you guys would like to spend more time, both Patrick and I are available, so we're happy to do that. I'm going to take us through about 2-3 slides, and then Patrick is going to demo kind of our process and our tool, and then we'll come back and have conversation. Okay. Alrighty. So just a little bit about Protera. So first of all, thank you thank you for coming to the conference. We're a sponsor of SAP Insider, and thank you for coming to our booth and our presentation. Protera Technologies is a company located headquartered in Chicago, kind of a virtual team. Though we're in different parts of the country. We have customers around the world, but primarily North America. We've been serving customers running SAP for over 20 years. We have 7 SAP global certifications, including hosting apps management. We spent a lot of time with companies like yours. Have done over 500 SAP migrations and currently managing over 1,500 systems. And I think there was some interest in looking at, hey, do we have managed service provider? I think that was from Jeff. So we do that as well. We both help with the migration, or we call it the transformation, as well as we run customers' SAP and related non-SAP systems. And something that I think is very important in this space is there's a lot of different options that you can have, and to be honest, there's varying levels of customer sat. Our customers are very, very happy with us and with the service we provide, and we're always happy to have customer references to come and talk about our service. Okay. We were the first company to run production SAP on the cloud. We put the first production SAP instance on AWS many, many years ago, and actually helped write the initial technical standards. And the company really has a very, very strong technical foundation of running SAP on the cloud. However, we're not just an AWS partner. We are a Microsoft partner. We're what's called a gold platform partner with SAP on Azure Advanced Specialization, which is a long set of words, which basically means we're one of very, very few partners to have attained pretty much the top level status for helping organizations move their SAP to Microsoft Azure. We are also at that same tier with AWS. So we're what's called a migration acceleration partner with AWS, which again is the top tier. So we are probably the only organization that is a top tier partner for these two. Jeff, I think you mentioned you were looking at different cloud options. So we work with customers who choose Azure. We work with customers who choose AWS. And we've actually worked with some customers who've chosen GCP, but we find that more customers are tending towards one of these two options that we have here. And then finally, our platform is called Protera FlexBridge. We do the migrations and the managed service, and it's all enabled by this platform called Protera FlexBridge, which is something that we're going to show you in a few moments. Okay. Now, why do organizations change how they run SAP? Here's kind of what we normally encounter. So normally we work with organizations, for the most part, companies who are running ECC or maybe Business Suite on HANA, really a little less, they're already running SAP S/4HANA. So I think all three of you are not yet on S/4HANA, and that is very typical for what we see. We do work with some organizations who are already running it, but again, mostly ECC or Business Suite. And then 99% of the time, the organizations are also looking at accompanying other SAP apps or non-SAP apps. So it's very, very common that we have this kind of heterogeneous landscape that we start with. Companies come to us from a variety of current operating platforms. Many are on-prem or maybe with another service provider. Some come to us from HAC. Some are actually on IBM. To a lesser extent, AWS and Azure. Usually it's one of those first four. But it's very common that we work with companies that are coming from different platforms, typically on-prem. And then there's also a wide degree of variance in terms of skills, in terms of the level of basic skills that companies have and cloud skills that companies have, okay? Now, mostly what they're looking for. So what most organizations are looking for is, number one, how can I lower my running costs? Number two, how can I improve the operation of the business by increasing automation? Number three, how can I just modernize? So Jeff, for example, you talk about sort of moving to a SaaS model with some of your applications. We get a lot of companies that are saying, you know what, my hardware is getting obsolete, so I need to refresh, and I just want to modernize my technology stack. We get that quite a bit. Simplification, we get this also quite a bit, which is companies saying, you know what, I'm moving to a SaaS model, I'm moving to a service provider model. I want to simplify the way that I manage my systems and really focus on the other aspects of the business or the organization that I'm supporting. Becoming more agile. There's a real appetite now for sort of try and buy with new kinds of capabilities that cloud can offer. And so a lot of our customers are saying, hey, I want that sort of agility with my SAP as well. Can you guys help me with that? Higher service quality. You know, Francis, you were talking about your experience with your service, current or previous service provider. That's actually quite common. We see that organizations want a higher level of service. And then sometimes there's a business deadline. Sometimes we get companies that say, you know what, we need to move out of this service provider by this date, and that's very important to us. Sounds like that may not be the case for you guys. Okay. Now, where they go, in general, our customers go to AWS or Azure. It's kind of a 50-50 mix. Some talk about a hybrid model. Jeff, I think you mentioned you might be kind of looking at or trying to figure out what your strategy is. We have not seen a hybrid model too much. We've seen more of move it to AWS or Azure and then sort of commit to that platform. But sometimes we do get customers who want to pursue a hybrid model. Okay. Now, it's all over the map with regard to S/4HANA. Okay, so we have customers that say, you know what, I just want to move to cloud. I'm not really thinking about S/4HANA right now. I've got some pressing need to move. We get quite a bit of that. In terms of companies that want to go to S/4HANA, I would say mostly we see the desire to move the current platform over to the cloud, whichever cloud they pick, and then do the upgrade. So here it says move, then upgrade. Mostly it's because they say, you know what, if I'm going to make all these changes to my application stack, I want to do it on my future platform. I don't want to do it on my old platform and then move it. It's usually let's move over and then I'll implement it, or I'll do the upgrade on the new platform. Sometimes we see the one-step upgrade, which is move platform and upgrade to S4 at the same time. It's pretty rare though. Okay, sometimes we do see, very rarely, we do see new SAP implementation. So if you're looking at that, that's not the case with you guys. And then sometimes we see, hey, I'm on S4 already. I just want to upgrade to the latest version. I would say that's less common as well. So I would say these are a little bit more in rank order. Very often we see, hey, I want to move to cloud. I'll worry about my S4 later. Or I want to move to cloud and then I will upgrade to S4 once I get on the cloud. Okay. Now, in terms of management, there's sort of the fully managed option, which says, hey, I want a service provider to take care of all my SAP basis, all my technical, all my infrastructure management, my capacity, my performance, all that stuff, both my SAP and non-SAP. That's very, very common. Some of our larger customers want basically that all-in-one managed service, which we provide. We'll talk a little bit about that. Sometimes customers are looking just for the infrastructure management for applications that accompany SAP. So they just want someone to sort of to manage the cloud aspect of that. And then we do also see self-managed, which is we'll do the migration and then the customer wants to manage themselves. I would say that's the least common option of the three, simply because most organizations moving to the cloud are trying to simplify. They're trying to say, hey, let somebody else take care of most of the technical stuff. I want to focus on the business, the users, the processes, etc. Okay. So I'm going to move on a little bit, but this is quite a bit, but I want to see if there's any questions here so far. Okay, and you guys your audio is on, so feel free to jump in and ask a question at any time. But in general, the situation that you guys are in is all very, very common to what we see customers who are investigating different options. Very common. Okay. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do it. So again, we've been in business 20 years. We've done over 500 migrations and managed over 1,500 SAP and related systems. In a nutshell, this is how we do it. And I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, who will give you a kind of a demo, or not kind of, but he'll give you a demo. So basically what we first do is we'll come into an organization, and our our team is comprised of SAP specialists who have, senior experts have 20 or more years of SAP expertise managing these systems. So we use our software. We'll go in and we'll capture and analyze your source systems. We have a number of algorithms that we'll go through, make sure we understand everything in the source, and then it'll tell us what could be some potential risks in your transformation or in your migration. Then we'll go ahead and generate the cloud architecture. This is based upon our own rules and logic. It's based upon what SAP has certified for their architectures. And then depending on which cloud you choose, we'll pick either the AWS or the Microsoft Azure certified service. We're always updating that to make sure that when we generate this architecture for you, it's optimized and it's in line with what has been approved by those service providers. And then finally, we can do a prediction of cloud costs. Very often our customers want to do a couple of revisions. They want to say, okay, if I do it like this, if I do it like this, tell me what that would be. And our software does this very, very quickly. If you're engaged with a service provider who does this in the traditional way, it can take a long time. It can be a little hard to get this information. We have it all done in software, so it's very easy for us to do that. Okay. Then when we go ahead and move forward, we'll finalize your transformation plan. We'll look at things like what's your downtime window, what kind of transformation method is best based upon your data, based upon your applications, based upon your source and target. We support several different ways of transporting or transforming each of your different applications and instances and systems. We'll provision the cloud infrastructure, so there's no need to go in and kind of wade your way through the cloud providers' portals. We have a very, very simple portal. We do this, but we also open this up to customers if they want to manage their own infrastructure. And then finally, we have automations to automate the transformation from the source to the target. The data never comes into our servers. This is a SaaS service, but the data never comes to us. We simply connect to your source and target. We do that transformation. And we typically can accelerate a migration sometimes 2 to 3 times versus doing it kind of the old-fashioned way. Okay. And then once you're moved over, if you choose, you can continue to work with us, and then we have a set of capability to help you manage your SAP and your non-SAP systems. Just think of this as it's a dashboard, management dashboard, shows you everything that's going on. You can optimize the cost, you can optimize the performance of your systems. We'll show you the availability, the responsiveness, all those quality aspects. It's a very, very nice interface. You can see at a glance hundreds of servers. It'll tell you, which ones need attention, which ones are up. If there's something that's down, you can see all that on the dashboard. And then finally, as you're now on the cloud and maybe you're launching new projects, maybe you're doing that S4 transformation, you have a host of new tools available to you. Everything from just having a modernized infrastructure to being able to quickly provision or deprovision systems, move systems, do all that kind of underlying management that you need to support your project. There's a whole host of functionality that we support there. It's really tuned for organizations that want to run projects based on SAP and based in the cloud. So in a nutshell, I know I'm talking pretty quickly, but that's kind of what the process would be like if you work with us. We use Protera FlexBridge to help guide you through everything from understanding where you are today, taking it all the way through getting you up and running, managing that, and actually helping you as you do any new projects, for example, an S4 upgrade project. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick to do the demo. Before I do that, any questions? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, and he'll kind of walk you through this demo, and then I'll come back with a couple of words after Patrick finishes. Okay.
All right, thank you, Alan. Thank you all for your time. Hopefully you see the screen there okay. You see my browser show up?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to show now this is going to be the start of the assessment. What it's summarizing is basically the scope of your system that you have that you're interested in doing a transformation. As Alan mentioned, the product has been built, easy to access an internet application, and we built it specifically for transformations to public cloud. Today we currently support Azure and AWS as targets, and I'll show how we go about doing that for the assessment and the actual transformation. So you can see here many SAP applications. We show them here as landscapes, and you can see the types here. So these checks you can do yourself, or if you import the data, the assessment tool is going to actually show you everything that you've imported. But you can see a good sampling of systems, We continue to add when we see new systems that we haven't assessed before. And you can even add your own third-party products. So even a homegrown app, we can do an assessment of that and provide guidance of what it would take to move that. So the first idea is to capture what systems you have and then look at what you want to do with those. So in this example I'm going to show here, I have Azure. We can also show AWS, as I mentioned, and it has the different regions. I have pre-selected here our most popular ones. We can add any region around the world. So if you're looking at Brazil, for example, we just did a recent migration assessment for Brazil. We added that as a region for the customer. And it can be for the primary, meaning your non-production production environments, and then secondary, which would be your disaster recovery systems. So we recommend to have both those if you are looking at DR or have it today. And as Alan mentioned, the tool is built for any type of transformation. So this includes the transformation to cloud, which includes if you do a transformation to the operating system, the database, and even the application. So you can see here, for example, BW. There's a lot of choices in BW actually, where you can go from BW, you can go to BW on HANA, and actually, in this example, I don't show it, but you can also do BW on HANA. So taking the BW application that's been around for 10 years and running that on the HANA database as well. So you can select the option here, and it would actually change your transformation rules and how we price it out, and actually how we transform that into the target cloud. So you can see very powerful. We can support many transformation methods. I'm going to show here the simplest one, which is as is. If you're not familiar with that term, what as is means is that we're not going to make any changes to the operating system, the database, and the application. So we're going to move it to public cloud, and it'll be sized similar to how it's sized on-premise. So it's the fastest method, the least risk. But again, we can support those other transformations. But for sake of time, I'm just going to demonstrate the as-is migration today. And then we get a scope summary. So at this point, we're just summarizing what we want to do in the project. We have BW, we have ERP, we have a BobJ system, we have a web dispatcher. Those are all in dev quality production. We have HA and DR for all those system types. And we're going to Azure for East US for our prod and non-prod system. And then we're going to Central US for our secondary DR systems. And just summarizing what we want to do for each of those landscapes. So now the fun begins. Now we have our scope, what we want to, our objectives essentially. Now we can do the assessment. What Alan showed there is that one of the first screens is the assessment piece of how we automatically collect the data. And we provide a lot of options around this. One option is to collect it using a software product tool that we built. It's an ABAP program. So if you're familiar with ABAP, you don't have to be an ABAPer, but if you're familiar with the basis stack in SAP, you can import the software. We provide instructions that can be easily installed. You just click here, get the software you need to install it. We provide a few commands on how to put that in the SAP system, and you can execute it. So from this assessment program, it collects all the technical detail that we're going to need that informs us of the important information on that source system. Now, there's another way we can actually collect data, and that's around in Excel. So you can simply provide us in a tabular format in Excel, all the systems you have. And I'll just click on this really quick, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's going to be an example of what the spreadsheet looks like. It's going to come over on this other screen, so I'll drag it over. So you can see here all the different landscapes. I can do a pull down and see all the types. So you can literally just easily say we got a Soulman system, and it's a dev system here. And we're going to say it might be DS, DSM for solution manager. And then you just provide some high-level details of what the version is. You can say SAP Soulman 7.2. And if you know these details, you can add them. The more information we get from the Excel or from the ABAP program we provide is going to provide a better assessment, better, the old saying, better data in, better data out. And from this, we can actually provide the size information. If you provide us the VPU, the cores, and the memory, the sizing of that system, and what type of database it is, the version, and size. So you can either do it through one of our agents or one of the cloud agents that that the vendors have, or you can use our Excel. So a lot of choices of how you can get the data into the system. What I want to show then is the summarization of that data. And as Alan showed, we do the assessment, we collect the information, we're going to basically summarize all the system by landscape types. Again, we can also do it on SAP, showing here just SAP 3 landscapes, the types, the operating systems, the details, the sizes, the database also, and other attributes, which if you share it, we can do an assessment on if Java, if there's remediation that has to be done there, or if it's a Unicode system, which is shown here, we actually can then do an analysis on the data you provide. So you may have seen that on the slide that, Alan, if you had good eyes, you'd pick out this piece, and this is the assessment piece. So we can actually look at with the as is, do we have any issues looking at supportability? So you're gonna move that existing ERP system with in this case, it was Red Hat version 7, and I believe it was DB6 database. So we're gonna look and see exactly any systems any problems we may have to remediate in that environment. So you can see here, it's a DB6 database. It's a supported version 10.1. It's saying that it's compatible, it's passed. So no extra work needs to be done. But then there was some manual data entered. There's the HA system and DR. We didn't get the database information collected. So we basically give it a not pass, just so we know that we have to collect that data. Or there's a non-pass because one of the systems that collected data on, the database is very low, it's out of support by IBM. So we're looking at what SAP provides called the PAM, the Product Availability Matrix. And we're looking at supportability for the operating system, the database, and the SAP version. So really easy to see if you pass this by looking at the colors. And these are categorically the biggest areas you have to look from the technical realm of moving the migration, doing the migration into public cloud. So you get that really quick assessment from the data you provide. And then from that data, from the source, then we auto solution from your scoping that you provided. So if you want to do it as is, and you want to go to Azure in the respective regions, we're now going to take all that source environment information that I showed previously, and now we're going to give it to what it looks like. This is basically your BOM, your bill of materials for building this system in your new cloud. So you can see we're doing a transformation type of as is. We're going to go to the East region for the prod and non-prod system, and it's going to go to Azure. And then we automatically size it into that respective cloud's VMs or instances. So you can see here, this is an E4S version 3, and the size are shown here. So we automatically take your on-premise or wherever, if it's already hosted, could be in another cloud already, and we're going to give you what the new cloud sizing will be, what's preferred. And still, we can always override something. So for example, you say, the size has proved well for us in the past. We have a lot of new sites that are coming in after we go live on Azure. We could still override that and take it to a larger size. But this is all of our rules that auto solution it to get this. And I should mention all these rules for everything I'm going to show you on the screen is automatically populated once I import the data. So any system automatically gets populated as soon as it gets added. We also are going to provide you the methodology. So we have what we're going to build. This next window here shows how we're going to do it. And this is very important. A lot of choices for any type of migration. For if you're going to keep an exact copy, there's a very nice tool that Microsoft provides called Azure Site Recovery, which can be used for many purposes, but we can also use it to move an SAP system into Azure. Or there's many other tools. The export-import tool that's provided by SAP can be utilized. And that is actually our recommendation for most transformations because it gives us a lot of flexibility where we can also upgrade the operating system and database and bring it into a better support window. So we're going to provide our best practices or recommendations, and we'll guide you and have a good conversation about if this approach makes most sense. And with that guidance and the methodology that's pre-selected by the tool, and we can still change with your recommendations, we then come up with the automatically generated project plan. So you can say project plan / timeline. So you can see very, very high level or very quickly what it's going to take for a duration and the phases of those. We can add additional steps. For example, if you're going to do a technical transformation, meaning you're going to change from a Windows environment to Linux or a Unix environment to Linux, any change in the operating system database, we would actually recommend an additional phase we call rehearsal in right at the beginning before development. So that will add a good 2 or 3 weeks to the project. So it's automatically generated. And also we, as Alan showed, roles and responsibilities. So this is going to just give a good level of guidance of what the customer is responsible for within the timeline. And then the next piece, we're going to show what that architecture looks like. So those details that we showed in tabular format, now we're going to generate in basically a schematic that can be shared with the team at Microsoft. So, you have full understanding of what's going to be built in your Azure subscription and the sizing for all those. So you can see here's the HR environment, the DMZ shown here. So we actually have a NetWeaver gateway and a web dispatcher, which is going to segregate and protect that internet traffic from your corporate network, which has SAP. As Alan showed, we also provide automatically the pricing. So it's going to be a little eye chart because there's a lot of data here. We show for the infrastructure cost. So this is showing the monthly fee for all the infrastructure. This is the compute, the storage, and the networking. So we're going to show the line item breakdown of everything that was in that chart previously for the target for all your landscapes. They'll be broken up in each line. So you actually can't see everything here, but it's going to show by the amount of storage and the price for each storage type. It's going to show you estimation for what our best practices recommend for backups, and then also what the compute's going to be. So if you're familiar with the cloud pricing, it's done by what they call compute, which is the VPU and the memory. And that's much like you'd buy a server from HP in the past, it has a list price for that size. So we get that pricing from Azure here in this example. And the other important thing, if you're not familiar with how pricing is done in public cloud, there is this concept called reserved pricing. And the easiest way to think about it is reserved is pretty much buying it or committing that you're going to pay for it over a period of time. So you get a very nice discount. So what I'm showing here right now is pay as you go. That's also considered on demand, pay for every hour you use it. And if you want to commit for SAP and you're going to keep the system up for a year or 3 years, you can actually get a very attractive discount for doing that. And we provide that pricing also. So you can see this price was almost 2/3. You're saving roughly 30-35% to commit to 3 years to say you're going to run those systems 100%. So we provide that model. And the nice thing is any new system you add, you change the sizing in the tool for what the scope is, it's going to automatically adjust the pricing accordingly. And then also we provide, if you choose to use Protera FlexBridge and our team to do the migration, we provide that pricing. So you can see right off the bat what it's going to take to engage with us and set up everything. So this is the build of the environment, the transformation into the public cloud, and then also activation of HA and DR if it's applicable, or any non-SAP migrations. So we're going to show all that. I'm going to go a little over in time, but I wanted to show this one last piece, and this is where Alan showed, I think it was like the last 2 or 3 screens here. And this is once go live occurs and you transform those systems in the public cloud, then we provide what we call the run piece, this dashboard. And this is going to show you the operational metrics and very important data to operate your business. So you can see availability. It's all provided real time. I can click into here and see for any system that's managed. And the demo I just showed was a very small environment. I'm actually going to show you our demo environment, which is going to have many landscapes in it. So you can see AD is Active Directory, and it's going to have a bunch of different categories. So you can see actually the system I'm demonstrating on right now is FlexBridge. I can actually see what that looks like for availability, over a period of time of today, over the last month, or a custom date range. You can say all last year. So very nice. We provide this real time as well as reporting to make sure you have that access at any time to see availability of those systems. So it's checking in the application level, not just the OS, but the application itself. Then we look at performance metrics. This is not only the infrastructure stack, you could say, but also SAP. So you can see CPU utilization, and then we also correlate memory at the same time and the storage performance. So you can see any bottlenecks throughout the stack and correlate that with any performance degradation you see in SAP. So you can see this got pegged here at 100% a little earlier today, so we can look to see what was running the system at that time. Let me just show that the SAP performance here. This is going to be specific for SAP. So you can see the last 24 hours for our development environment, and this is a specific system called PSD. It's going to show this data that comes in. So this is the last day. It's almost on average always under a quarter of a second. And this is pulled directly from a solution manager. So there's a lot of other additional metrics. If your company wants to see performance of VA01 specifically, we can provide a specific metric on that. And then lastly, I'll show the last screen, service desk tickets, integration capacity on disk. And also, this is, you can consider some of the DevOps, continuous development and integration pieces. Innovation is with the management of SAP systems. So we provide the capability, and I totally skipped this on provisioning. For sake of time, I can come back if you have time still. how we provision the systems, and then the management of starting and stopping them. So we can provide scheduling of starting your SAP system. So for example, this ERP landscape has not only the database of Oracle, it also has the application of SAP running on that. So we can manage the start, stop on the schedule, and also the patching. So this is the kernel patching of SAP. So we can provide that to your team, or we can do it on your behalf to make sure those systems are patched at least once a quarter, make sure they're highly performing and they're secure. I know we're a little over on time. I'll pause. I'm happy to show you the provision if you'd like to see that piece also. Any questions though?
Okay, should I take it back?
Yeah, well, why don't you take it back? If anyone wants to see more, I'm happy to share back the screen. So let me stop.
Okay, great. Francis, Jeff, Lee Fong, thank you very much. Just want to leave you with one slide here. First of all, we can spend more time and we'll be in the booth. I think for all three of you, it's a very common situation that we're in, which is customers maybe don't have specific plans to move to the public cloud, but it's something that's on their mind. And one barrier to moving forward is just not really understanding how large of a project this could be. What would it take? How much is it going to cost? How long? What's the downtime? What are my options? It seems like a pretty complex problem. For us, it's not that complex at all. So really just with a few simple questions, we can start having a conversation with you that says, okay, based upon this size of ECC, this number of users, this size of database, and maybe have these other applications, this is roughly what your cost would look like to be running on AWS or running on Azure. This is roughly what the timeline would look like, and this is roughly what it would cost to manage your system, okay? So Patrick showed you kind of a detailed spreadsheet where we gather a bunch of information, but even if we just have these high-level pieces of information, we can start to work with you to put together sort of like a rough order of magnitude of what the transformation can take, okay? Now, more importantly than that, what I showed you before is, we work with a lot of organizations who have many different current states, whether they're on HAC, whether they're on IBM Cloud, a private data center, on-premise. And so we do have quite a bit of experience with helping customers kind of navigate their options. So even if you're not ready to make a move, right now, our team and our technical experts can certainly sit down with you and just talk about, hey, if you're on, this version of ECC and you're thinking of S4 HANA in the future, do you want to do it all at once? Do you want to, do multiple steps? So we have a lot of experience with customers who've done that, and we'd love to talk with you guys, if you want more information specifically for you, on that. So ideally, if you want to see what your environment would look like running on AWS or Azure, we have a special program called 541. You take 5 minutes, you answer 4 questions, we give you 1 cloud plan. It's pretty simple. Ideally, we can get you guys doing that. Or if not, we'd love to have a conversation with you.